Now that everybody's rewatched their copies of Avengers Infinity War, a lot of people have been revisiting these old theories about what all's gonna happen in next year's still untitled Avengers 4. Like, how will Thanos inevitably be defeated after the heavily rumored time skip? How will all the heroes affected by the snap come back in time for their sequels and potential future team-ups? And probably most importantly, how will the remaining heroes even have a chance against the guy who defeated both the Hulk, who spent years battling in gladiatorial combat and is clearly the strongest Avenger?
Voice activation required.
Banner.
Welcome, strongest Avenger.
What?
And Thor, the guy who was confirmed to be more powerful than Odin back in his last solo outing.
I'm not as strong as you.
No. You're stronger.
I mean, these guys are two of the strongest beings in the universe, and Thanos just casually smacked them around like they were nothing. Well, believe it or not, but all of those problems could potentially be solved by one single character. A character who could very well be one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. No, not that one. I'm talking about none other than Scott Lang, the Ant-Man.
Is it too late to change the name?
Now I know some of you guys are like, what? Ant-Man? He's just a guy that shrinks and makes giant insects sometimes. How's he supposed to do anything to help against Thanos? Well, normally nothing. I mean, come on, ants aren't going to do anything against Thanos, look at him. But thanks to a major plot point featured in Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm thinking it's possible that Scott could have a special connection to one of the Infinity Stones, and that this connection is going to help bring back all the snapped heroes.
You serious?
Seriously, think about what all we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Remember how the movie made a big deal out of Scott being in a state of quantum entanglement with the original Wasp, Janet Van Dyne, ever since the events of 2015's Ant-Man? Among other things, this connection meant that one person can communicate with other people and manipulate things through whoever they're entangled with, as long as they have some kind of access to each other. That's why Janet was able to communicate through Scott and help Hank and Hope find her in the quantum realm after they got their quantum tunnel kinda sorta working. We're also never shown or told that Janet cut off the connection between her and Scott after she made it out, so it's possible that they're still at least somewhat connected even after she got dusted. So is it possible that this connection is going to be an important part of Avengers 4's plot? Like, are we going to see Scott using it to communicate with everybody who got snapped and somehow manipulate the Soul Stone to get them all back to the real world? Now, I know this sounds pretty crazy, but think about it. We already know both Ant-Man and the Wasp are going to be important characters in Avengers 4, based on statements from Kevin Feige.
Ant-Man and the Wasp also connects directly to Avengers 4. These characters are going to be very important going forward.
That by itself to me sounds like both of these guys are going to have a major role in fixing the MCU, but when you actually stop and break down what all he said, things get a lot more interesting. First off, there's that bit about how the events of Ant-Man and the Wasp directly connect to the next Avengers movie. I guess you could argue that the post-credit scenes are supposed to be that connection, and that's fine, that's a reasonable argument, but at the same time, wouldn't you think that they're more of a link to Infinity War? I mean, seeing the Pyms dusted and hearing that emergency signal on Scott's TV really don't lean all that much towards a story showing the remnants of Earth's mightiest heroes saving the universe, do they? And on top of that, you might have noticed that Kevin Feige never actually specified which Wasp he's talking about. Yeah, I know I'm reaching a little bit on this one, but he does always seem to specify between Hope and Janet throughout the rest of the featurette, so it is kind of interesting that he wouldn't do something like that towards the end of it, right? Regardless of whichever one you think he's talking about though, you'd think it'd be kind of hard for either one of them to be all that important in Avengers 4, considering how, you know, they're kind of dust in the wind right now.
Dust in the wind.
That is, unless he meant that the Wasp would be important in helping get everybody out of the Soul Stone while she's trapped inside of it. Now I know some of you, oh hell, who am I kidding, most of you, are probably writing a bunch of comments about how crazy I am right now, that none of this makes any sense, blah blah blah.
That is the dumbest idea you've ever had. You have had some doozy.
But when you stop and think about it, it's really not that crazy of a theory. Like I said earlier, we don't know for sure that the connection between Scott and Janet is cut off, so it's possible that the Russos could use it as an important plot point in Avengers 4. But comics, wouldn't that mean Scott would know that the Pyms got dusted, and he wouldn't just be sitting there wondering what happened? Well, no, it doesn't. Remember, the connection between Scott and Janet requires some sort of access between the two in order to work. That's why Janet was never able to pass her memories along or talk through Scott whenever the quantum tunnel was off. We don't know all that much about the Soul Stone as of right now, but based on what we know about the MCU's take on quantum entanglement, it seems like either Scott or Janet would need to be full-sized on Earth if the other one's stuck in the Soul Stone. Like, that's the basic level of access needed for the connection to work. Remember, the quantum realm is its own dimension, and the Soul Stone holds its own pocket dimension. More on this later. So it makes sense that Scott and Janet wouldn't be able to talk to each other if the separate dimensions they're in aren't connected. Speaking of, the biggest hole in this theory is that we're assuming that all the snapped heroes actually went somewhere when they disappeared instead of just dying like they did in the comics, or simply vanishing like Thanos claimed they would in the movie.
With all 6 stones, I could simply snap my fingers. They would all cease to exist.
Now, even though it's easy to assume that that's what actually happened, considering, that's what they told us, the ending of the movie does seemingly hint that everybody who got snapped actually wound up in the Soul Stone. See, in the comics, the stone contained a pocket dimension known as Soul World, where it houses the souls of whoever it's directly used against. And as confirmed by the Russos, that scene where Thanos met with Child Gamora after he wiped out half of all life in the universe took place in the MCU version of Soul World. With nothing in the movie really setting this meeting up, it does kind of sort of lean towards that idea that everybody who quote-unquote died in Infinity War actually wound up inside this pocket dimension. Now, to be fair, I realize that this theory is a lot like my Flash Season 4 Barry Allen is the Reverse Flash theory. It's fun to think about, there's a few interesting coincidences that lean this way, but it's also very likely that this whole thing is completely insane. I mean, it's probably more likely that Kevin Feige just meant that those time vortexes Janet mentioned in Ant-Man and the Wasp are the movie's connection to Avengers 4, and the Ant-Man and Wasp characters are important because they both have experience navigating the quantum realm, meaning they'd be useful to the remaining heroes by helping them figure out another way to travel through time. But at the same time, you never know, right? Maybe they really did set up this crazy elaborate ruse to set up Ant-Man as one of the most important characters in the MCU. But anyways guys, that's my take on whether or not that quantum entanglement angle from Ant-Man and the Wasp will play some kind of a role in next year's Avengers 4. If you guys agreed with anything I said in this video, or if you have your own theories you want to throw out there, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.